Hey guys, Cryptus here. I decided to make this video to discuss a bit about the current state of dual wielding in PvP. I'll also mention the challenges it brings, changes that could help it out, and what you may expect by playing dual wield in PvP versus two-handers. So let's go ahead and start with the current state from a general aspect. I just wanted to talk a bit about this topic. It has been discussed many times. As you know, the current state of Frost is as follows. Our mobility is slightly weak, as is our somewhat bad defense and survivability talents. Also, our lack of real CC does hurt. Frost Death Knights are also known as glass cannons, meaning we are able to put out big damage but unable to take big damage. But here's how I view it. So the Frost tree is in a tough spot at the moment. You can't really expect to have all the same tools that many other classes have. I often hear players wishing that Death Knights had a fear, disarm, or other type of CC or strong defensive cooldowns. I almost think they would be better off playing as a warrior because they're pretty much describing that class. Death Knights do take some time to play, and you won't always get the results you want unless you practice and work on improving all the time. Unfortunately, Frost Death Knights are at a state where one mistake can cause you to die immediately, so learning how to use all your abilities and understanding how your class works in general will help you overcome these obstacles. This includes using defensive cooldowns and understanding when to kite or when to be aggressive. But I'm going to discuss a little bit more about the state of dual wielding in PvP and the challenges it brings when compared to two-handers. The dual wield challenge, understanding what dual wielding provides and how to implement it. The challenge of playing dual wield versus two-handers is that you will unfortunately do much less burst damage due to our one-handed weapons and the lower weapon damage supplies when compared to a two-handed weapon. Unlike Obliterate that can hit for 100k plus, our biggest damage comes from Howling Blast and Frost Strikes, which at times may not hit that hard, but we can use them multiple amount of times. The playstyle is also different compared to two-handers. You will learn how to use Howling Blast and Frost Strike over Obliterate. Obliterate will not be something you would implement into your offensive abilities very often. Gemming and stat reforging is also different as well. You will go for mastery over haste, since most two-handed players use haste, so that's another thing you need to take into account when playing dual wield, since mastery is for those Howling Blast and Frost Strikes, and in my case, Death Siphon, which I can explain in another video. Haste can be used as a secondary stat for dual wielding over crit or vice versa. It's usually personal preference. And then relying on Frost Strike over Obliterate will be the biggest change between the two. You will do significantly less damage when it comes to burst, but allowing you to use about 4 to 5 Frost Strikes continuously with 2 to 3 Killing Machine procs can do good damage even on well-geared characters, regardless of armor class. Now let's move on to changes that could be made to help out. So far as for changes, this is a very large list and I may not list all the changes I wouldn't mind having, but I will be sure to list some of the more interesting ones I would enjoy. The Chains of Ice Root, make it a passive. By this I mean not just making the ability itself apply a root, not to be confused with the talent Chillblains. Basically it would just make Chains of Ice Root, and that's it. Thus would change Chillblains to apply a slow if any diseases are on the target, regardless of Frost Fever or Blood Plague. Soul Reaper, have it deliver Shadow Frost damage, which affects both Frost and Unholy Mastery, and then give it a 3-second proc down from 5 seconds. These changes would help it deliver a bigger execute and give it less time to be dispelled. The Tier 4 Talent of Death Siphon, I would change it to use an Unholy Rune rather than a Death Rune. It would make the ability much more useful for Mastery stacking Death Knight since it is affected by Mastery. It would also help out with survivability and give the dual wielding Death Knight a reason to use Unholy Runes rather than using them on Plague Striker or Death and Decay. The Tier 6 Talent of Gorefiend's Grasp, give it a 2-second stun once gripped in to make it viable and a bit more safe on use, as well as giving us an extra stun, or make the Remorseless Winner a 3-stack instead of a 5-stack to again help it proc faster and reduce the chances of being dispelled, slowing for 25% per stack. So these are just some of the changes I would find to help me quite a bit when it comes to playing a dual wield Frost Death Knight. What to expect as dual wield, as again playing dual wield means you will have to be much more creative when it comes to using your skills or abilities and understanding when to kite and when to be offensive. You will die fast if you try to go in full force, but remember as dual wield you will be able to rely on Howling Blast, which is a perfect range DPS tool for use when you're kiting, and having Chains of Ice be a passive route would be greatly appreciated and be very nice. Not to mention this is why I would like to see Death Siphon ability be used as an Unholy Rune rather than Death Rune. It would give us some health back as we kite, which would be pretty nice when it comes to survivability and the ability to kite our opponents around. Two-handed Frost does provide much more of that burst when they use Obliterate, being able to chop down their enemies much quicker with those 150k damage strikes and those times when Killing Machine procs and cooldowns are used. I noticed that as Dual Wield I may not deliver a lot of gigantic bursts, but I'm still able to keep constant pressure on with multiple Frost strikes and Howling Blast abilities. Sometimes it isn't enough burst to really kill them off instantly, but it does help in a sense that they need to constantly be healing themselves more and more and more to keep themselves up. Also, my abilities do well against all armor types, whether it's cloth, meld, leather, or even plate. Being Dual Wield, I have learned to understand when to use defensive cooldowns much more carefully now. So in the end, if you expect to deliver much needed burst, Dual Wield may not be your first choice. It can deliver good damage depending on the RNG luck you get with Killing Machine, Frost Strikes, and Howling Blast crits. I do prefer the playstyle over two-handed and will continue to play Dual Wield. I will eventually figure out more and more and hopefully become a better player as time goes on and I become better geared. So to sum things up, Dual Wield is definitely one to play if you're looking for a challenge, which is one of the reasons why I play Dual Wield. But understand you won't be a very powerful tank that can take a lot of damage and put out a lot of damage at the same time. You will have to work with what you have and play very carefully. So I hope this quick video helps shed some light on what Dual Wield offers and what to expect if you decide to go this path. Thanks for watching.